Mercury's team, i.e. the Lords of Shadow devs, have a really weird habit of making combat systems that are almost perfect but fuck up in some critical area. They handled the recent Metroid release, and I really love the game for the most part. Mechanically and level design wise, it's probably the best in the 2D series, even if the world isn't as interconnected as, say, Super or Zero Mission. I really like the combat mechanics. The new melee counter, 360-degree aiming, it's great, but the area they fucked up in, once again, is enemy design. They got overzealous with enemy placement, damage, and aggression. Almost every enemy in the game can be melee countered, and melee counter is far more efficient for eliminating enemies than Samus's famous power beam variants, which is bizarre. Just about the only instance where this isn't an issue is the boss fights. Against normal enemies, they just soak up so many hits. It even takes multiple charge shots on missiles to take out standard enemies until you get the super missiles and spazer beam. But if you melee counter, it supercharges your beam, and you can pretty much insta-kill whatever normal enemy you encountered. In theory, the melee counter would be a solid defensive option had they made the power beam stronger than firing piss at the enemies, and if the counter didn't charge your beam. Between the overaggressive enemies and their damage output, some things in the game can feel a bit trial and error, i.e. death, which is a bit odd for the Metroid series, and seems to run counter to the design decisions one might expect from an exploration-focused game. I really like the game, but some of the design decisions are just dumb. The only thing that keeps it from being a deal-breaker is the rather generous checkpoint system, which, incidentally, is also part of my problem with the difficulty. As, had the combat and enemies been properly balanced, they wouldn't need a checkpoint system in the exploration-focused game in the first place. And this is normal difficulty I'm talking about, by the way. They also really love putting really aggressive flying enemies right above ledges where you can't evade or counter properly for some reason in the early game. Just about everything else in the game is fantastic, but I've taken to studying video game combat mechanics, and that really got on my tits during my playthrough. Boss fights are excellently handled, though, save for the occasional unintuitive design decision, of which there are about two. The first that comes to mind is Zeta Metroids, which can be grappled when they have a red glowy bit visible on them, which is otherwise commonly seen on grapple beam points, but is never seen on any other enemies in the game. So, you're more likely to just look at it without a passing thought as to what the significance of it is. Is it charging up an attack? Should I be worried? What's it doing? I don't fucking know. I mean, I really liked the fight overall, but that was just... I'm not sure what the thinking was. There's a fight against a robot boss where you spend 2/3 of the fight pumping missiles into its head whenever it's exposed, but for some stupid reason, the intended method of attack for the last third of the fight is to spider ball on its head and morph ball bomb it. There is no other instance in the game in which that's a thing, and there's no indication during the fight that you're intended to do that to finish this thing off. That rant went a bit longer than I would have thought. I have a handful of other nitpicks about the game, but that's the big thing that bothered me. The amount I complain about it, I wouldn't be surprised if people took it as me not liking the game. But I do. Anyway, regular content will resume soon enough. Been really busy with work, so I haven't had a ton of time to work on videos. Hope you all enjoyed this, though. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my normal content, which will hopefully resume in the next few weeks. Thank you and good night.